Time for the only radio show of its kind. Auctioneers of antiques, collectors of cool, veterans of vintage. It's the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer. For the next hour, enjoy great information about buying and selling antiques and collectibles, and some interesting stories. Now, the Donnelly Auctions Hour.
Welcome to the Donnelly Auctions Hour. Thank you for joining us. We're here every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Susan, and I'm here with Randy Donnelly. We are the owners of Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois. We're just 60 miles west of Chicago, folks, right down on I-90.
You got it.
Yeah. Right at the Wild West. Hi, Randy. Welcome back from Louisville.
Hey, Susan. Oh, yes. Thank you. That was quite a trip.
That was quite a trip. You missed a lot while you were gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell you all about that.
Yeah, tell me about it. Hey, well, this week's show, Susan, I'd like to talk about coin-operated machines and gambling equipment and all the fun of collecting slots, pinballs, jukeboxes, and so on and so forth. It's probably one of the biggest hobbies in all of antiques collecting.
Yes, it is, and it's actually one of my favorites, too. I find there's so many different things that you can collect and that we can sell at auction that people just love still to this day.
Back when I was a kid, I always bring this up, that I come from a long line of collectors, my dad being a collector and everything. But back when I was a kid, collecting slot machines was still actually in Illinois illegal. Gambling equipment was illegal until like 1976. Mm-hmm. I think it was actually Governor Jim Thompson. Thank goodness. He was a great governor. Jim Thompson actually came to one of my friend's houses and looked at his slot machine collection and said, this should not be illegal. All these antique devices that people were collecting up until Jim Thompson changed the law or helped get it changed, that was actually still illegal. I just can't imagine that.
He actually came to his house?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, Governor Thompson was a well-known antiques collector and a real friend to the hobby. Again, what a gentleman. Good person, good politician. And that's really something to say. But, again, previous to 76, if you collected slot machines, you were actually in violation of the law. And people that had slot machines and everything were actually afraid to sell them. They still had slot machines left over from when they owned taverns and bars and their families and everything. So the slot machines came home, got put in houses and rec rooms and everything. And people were actually afraid to sell them because they knew they were illegal and theoretically again, in violation of the law, and they could have been arrested. But
why do I have a feeling that you and your brother were involved in that somehow when you were teenagers?
Well, I don't know what the statute of limitations is, but you might say my brother and I were certainly involved in potentially the buying and selling of
potentially, yes. Allegedly.
Thank you.
Allegedly.
Thank you. But I'm not saying anything on the radio.
No, I'm sorry.
Myself.
No, but that's how you learned a lot about slot machines, arcade equipment.
Well, yeah, and that was a silly, antiquated law. It was just an old law that needed to be changed because, of course, nobody was using these antique devices for gambling purposes anymore. They were just decoration and fun to have for people in their homes and everything. But again, it's a great hobby. The collecting of slot machines has just been like ever since I've
right.
Ever,
well, that's going to be our focus today, folks. Stick with us. We're going to be talking about coin-operated machines, specifically slot machines, pinball machines, and arcade games.
Well, yeah, and I like to talk about pinball machines and warn people all the time. One of the things that I want to do on this show is make people aware of values because I don't want people selling stuff cheap at garage sales and then being upset later when they find out what things were actually worth. So what we're trying to do is identify values for people here. And one thing is pinball machines. Everybody has a pinball machine in their basement or garage or in storage somewhere. And by and large, pinball machines really aren't all that expensive. I mean, most machines are only in that $300 to $500 range. There was a period of time in the 50s and 60s that so many of them were made, and they were just okay machines, not really great. So for that reason, they're still just okay today. But machines, there are machines that we have to warn people about that can be. It's nothing for a pinball machine today to be $6,000-$8,000.
Right. You know what the most popular pinball machine is out there?
don't.
The most sought after?
I don't.
Take a guess. You'll guess it.
Well,
because you know, because we sold one recently.
I would have to say because we just sold an Adams Family.
That's right.
And it was so many bids on that machine.
Yeah, I didn't understand that until I looked it up and realized it is one of the most sought after, the Adams Family pinball machine.
Yeah,
so if you have one of those hidden out in your garage or basement, let us know. Now's the time to sell.
That whole generation of pinball machines, which are not necessarily antique, they're just vintage. That whole generation of pinball machines really is what you're looking for, that, kind of 70s, 80s period of time.
The modern ones sell really well.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it's nothing, for pinball machines to be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000.
Those of you who haven't seen the TV show, Adams Family, Google it. I watched it when I was a kid. Did you ever watch it?
I did, as a matter of fact.
I don't know if I did. It was in black and white.
Yeah,
black and white was before me.
With your black and white.
I know.
So, at any rate, slot machines, pinball machines, arcade games of all kind, anything with a coin slot brings money. And I mean, there's so many varieties of coin-operated items. I mean, you can look at scales. I mean, penny scales. They're collectible, but they don't bring that much money. But there's boxing machines. There's pistol machines. There's rifle games. There's all kinds of a variety of things that are collectible.
That's right. We're going to get into that much more in the next segment or two. But right now, you want to touch base a little bit about what's happening at Donley Auctions, Randy. I know you were gone in Louisville this week at the Show of Shows.
Yeah, the military
Welcome
show,
back.
military and guns. Sure.
I can tell you what's been going on while you were gone. We have a lot going on at Donley Auctions.
Go ahead. Tell us.
This week, actually it was last week, we put the vintage license plate auction online. It's coming up on Sunday, March 12th. So if you know anyone or you yourself interested in vintage license plates, we have about, 500 or so. They're online. Just go to our website at donleyauctions.com and you'll see a button that'll take you to that auction. And then yesterday I just put up another online-only auction of popcorn collectibles. Tell them a little bit about what's in that auction.
Yeah, we have a large collection of popcorn machines, actual machines, and carts and everything that date back to the 1880s, actually, right on through the 1950s or 60s. And this came out of a museum. It's a museum collection that we're selling off. And then, of course, all the ephemera that goes with it, all the boxes and tin cans and everything.
Burlap sacks, advertising, all of that. Tell them a little bit about the 1925 truck. I think that's my favorite item in the auction, actually.
It is. It's a 1925 Model T Ford that is built into a large popcorn wagon, and it's an operating vehicle. If somebody wants to go into the popcorn business and go out onto the beach at North Avenue in Chicago,
you could drive it anywhere.
What you want to sell popcorn out of.
Have a little side hustle.
It's available for sale. But there were only 6 of these originally made, and this is one that it was started with an original 1925 Model T, but the complete box and mechanism, for the popcorn and everything is all new, built on there. But what a showpiece! It's really
that's right. The popcorn auction for popcorn and peanut lovers out there, that is coming up on April 1st. It is not an April Fool's joke by any means,
right? But you can bid on it right now.
Yeah, you can bid on it now. The auctions lots start ending on April 1st, so you can get online, and we'll talk about that in a segment coming up about how to bid.
Yeah.
But you just go in, click on the button on our website, donleyauctions.com, and it'll take you directly there. Just register to bid, and you can place absentee bids, and you can watch it throughout the weeks until it actually starts running the auction on April 1st.
Right. But we also do have phonographs and radios coming up March 18th.
Right around the corner.
Yes, it is.
Antique phonographs, vintage radios. How about all that CB equipment?
Oh, my goodness. Ham equipment.
Ham
There's
equipment.
all kinds of great...
My dad was a big CB collector. I remember his handle was Spud Wrench. I'll never forget that. Miss you, Dad.
He was an iron worker.
He was an iron worker, yes. Yeah. His handle was Spud Wrench. It was the best.
Put up rides at Great America.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, what a great guy.
He built the Raging Bull.
Great guy.
All right, and on that note, we're going to come back and continue talking about pinballs and slot machines.
Anything coin operated.
Anything coin operated. We'll get into more of that too. But right now, you're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour right here on AM 560. The Answer. You can always give Donnelly Auctions a call at 815-923-7000. Join us right back on AM 560. The Answer.
They've been called auctioneers of antiques, collectors of cool, even veterans of vintage. And they can introduce themselves. Thanks for listening. This is the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to the Donnelly Auctions Hour. I'm Susan. I'm co-owner of Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois, and here today with my partner, Randy Donnelly. Hi, Randy.
Hey,
What do you want to talk about today?
Well, we're talking about coin op and
coin-operated machines.
Yes.
We throw that term around loosely, yes.
Okay. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, coin-operated machines.
I'm here to correct
you. And one of the reasons we're talking about that is because in April, we have our large coin-op auction coming up.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to explain what is rare, what's common, and so on and so forth. But what we really need to let everybody know is if you have items to consign, anything that you want to sell, this is a perfect time to get a hold of us because there's so much stuff sitting around in buildings in Chicago. You know, it's not at all unusual for us to walk into a building, Susan, and find an old vendor's hoard of machines. And this turns up all the time where there might be 50 jukeboxes and 100 coin-operated games. And so often people inherit these hoards, and what do they do with it? They become paralyzed. They'll open the door and say, oh, my God, what do I do? And it's perfect for the April auction. We could take a warehouse like that and sell it off in one day for top dollar because, of course, we've got bidders all over the world looking for this kind of stuff. And right now it's sitting all over, just taking up storage in again, people's homes, their garages, basements, warehouses. And so they need to call us, Susan.
That's right. The April auction we keep referring to as our annual Spring Classic. And we're holding it for 3 days, April 27th, 28th, and 29th. And the beauty of that auction is what? We partner with.
Oh, well, the Slot Machine and Jukebox Show. You bet. That's going on at Grays Lake at the same time as our auction. So people come in from all over the world to see both events. But, Chicago just has such a great history for coin-operated equipment because it really was at one time and probably still is the pinball capital of the world. I mean, companies like Stearns and Williams and Bally and Gottlieb, all these companies right here in Chicago, there's just so much stuff here in the city still existing. I mean, it didn't, all get out of the city. I mean, there's plenty of it here.
Right, there's probably plenty out there just in our neighborhoods out in Chicago.
You bet.
So you have to give us a call, check and see what you have. We'll be happy to look at any photos. That's the most important thing. Send us some photos of what you have so we can identify, give you an estimated value, give you some direction. Is it something we can come pick up? Is it something you can deliver to us? We'll give you direction on what to do with it.
Susan, back when I was a teenager, both my brother Mike and I.
Nothing but trouble, you two, it sounds like.
Well, we actually worked for a company right on Lake Street in Chicago, 1936 Lake Street in Chicago. It was a an old building where they were still manufacturing the U.S. Marshal pistol game that everybody's seen. It was a pistol-operated, nickel-operated pistol that you would shoot at an old Wild West target with steel ball bearings. And we actually manufactured those. We were there for years and used to go to the MOA conventions and everything to sell these. But I'll never forget, in this building, the gentleman that owned it, his name was J.F. France, Johnny France. And he had all the old patterns for pinballs for Jennings slot machines. There's another company right in Chicago, Jennings. Mm-hmm. He had all the molds and the patterns and everything to make the slot machines, and all this old equipment still in his building. Well, I can only imagine there's still plenty of buildings like that in the city that are just treasure troves of great stuff. So anybody that knows where any of these treasure troves are, call us, because we can. What do we always say, Susan? We can make it fit in your wallet.
That's right. I remember we held an auction, and there was just a pile of, I don't know what it was. I go, what is this? And you said, those are molds. I go, seriously? That's what they use to make these slot machines, those figurine slot machines.
Sure.
They were amazing. I had no idea, and they sold really well.
I thought it was just a pile of dollars, right?
Pile of junk, but it wasn't.
And that's it. So often, even parts and things just look like a pile of junk. But if you know what it is, mm-hmm. and like we do, and what we're selling and where, we can turn it into some serious money for you. That's
right. I have a little trivia question for you. Do you know what the rarest of all pinball machines is?
Tell me.
It is called the 1776, because there was only one made, but it was modified from a 1941 Showboat pinball machine. So there's only one ever made. So some lucky collector found that in auction. The only one made. We don't know where it's at or what it even sold for. Yeah, they haven't said anything. But it was made by the Chicago Coin Manufacturing Company in 1948 for the movie The Time of Your Life. A little bit of pinball history there.
And, that's what's so neat. So often that we find things that people have not seen before because they are prototypes. And again, right here in Chicago, because so many of these factories, Susan, were right here in the city, prototypes very often went home with employees. They might make a prototype and try to figure out whether it's going to work or not and everything, and maybe not put it into production. Well, they didn't just scrap it and throw it away. Very often, employees had the good fortune of being able to take these things home. So rare stuff does turn up in the city here all the time.
That's right. Now, a little bit more about history. We had a little bit of trivia. Now, a little history on pinballs. They were not originally made with flippers.
That's correct.
They were built without flippers because it didn't involve any skill at the time, and that's why they were illegal, because
it was a game of chance.
Right. So then when they invented the flipper and became coin-operated in the 30s, that's when all the trouble began.
Well, yeah.
With gambling.
Well, that's actually when they became a game of skill, when there were flippers on it. So the argument was, well, this isn't a gambling device.
It's not a game of chance anymore, right?
Right. However, again, as I remember, still in the 60s and even into the 70s, if you went into certain bars, there were house rules where you could get paid off. I mean, you'd win maybe $50 if you would hit a certain score on a pinball machine. So actually gambling was taking place. Of course, I never did that. But
of course not.
But gambling was still taking place with pinball machines in bars for years and years with house rules.
So in 76 they finally banned that, it was no longer illegal, because the guy in court apparently proved that it was a game of skill, not a game of chance. Yeah. So that's how they were able to overturn it.
Incredible.
Yeah, great history.
Laws come and go. We see that all the time right now, don't we?
That's right.
So, at any rate, let's talk more about some of the values of these things.
Tell us something that's like really high value that would be perfect for our April auction coming up, because it's really right around the corner, and we need to start collecting these items now. before the end of March, really.
Well, Susan, we're interested in any of the slot machines, of course. We're interested in pinball machines, almost any coin-operated game, anything with a coin slot. And, of course, some of the big money stuff would be, and these still turn up in the city of Chicago. I've always said Mills Violin Machines. Mills Company, another company that was based here in Chicago. Mills made a fabulous violin. We've talked about it once before on our show. But there's so many fun things. There's games that you pull a rope, and it's called the pull the tiger's tail and make them roar. Take the tiger by the tail. I mean, there's strength testers. But in slot machines, the real money is in the big wooden upright machines. They're commonly known as a Dewey. The big
Dewey, like Dewey.
As in Admiral Dewey.
Dewey.
After the Spanish-American War, he was the big hero. And so the Dewey slot machines, or that style, the big upright with a big spinning wheel in the middle, they are big money. Starting at $10,000, they go up to as much as $300,000.
Wow. Let's continue talking more about that in the next segment. I love hearing about what is of value today in the coin-op collector industry. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to the Donley Auctions Hour here every Saturday at 1 o'clock on AM 560, The Answer.
You're listening to the Donley Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to the Donley Auctions Hour. I'm Susan, and I'm here with Randy Donley today. Hi, Randy.
Hey.
We're here today to talk specifically about coin-operated machines. We have a fantastic annual auction coming up at the end of April, so we want to get the word out to everyone on specific items that would just be a great fit in our auction. But the problem is it's right around the corner. It's the end of April. So us as an auction company, we need your collections or even a single item,
now.
Tomorrow. Yeah, today or tomorrow.
Call us.
What I always want to say is just give us a call. We did have a customer drive out. Was that last week? He drove all the way out here an hour and a half with an item. It just was not good. So we don't want to waste your time.
Please don't do that because if you make the trip, you're driving an hour or something out here, and we say, wow, it really has no value. It's not for auction. I would have to say so often that's the case. Please just email us photographs, and we can tell you instantly. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, it's today's Saturday, so actually later today, I'm going out to make a pickup of some items somebody did just that. They emailed us the photograph, made the appointment, and
you know what I loved about her photographs was that she took not only individual items, but she took a picture of the room. And we zoomed in and saw some things down in the corner on the floor. We're like, okay, we got to get into that house that she didn't even think we'd be interested in. So we always say, send us photos. Give us a call, even if you're not even sure how to attach images, or if you want to text them, if that's easier, we'll give you a number to send that to. But I've got a crack team of people who are looking at all of our emails now and all those photos, and we're trying to get back to everybody within a couple days. But again, depending on what it is, we'll come out there.
Oh,
Randy's got a crew of guys. We'll drive out and pick up. If it's definitely worth everybody's while, we will come out and take that off your hands and keep it. The process,
matter of fact,
very simple.
Mike is in Florida doing just that right now. My brother.
Oh, is that what he's saying he's doing? He's working?
Of course he is.
Yeah, okay. We're working, aren't we, Mike?
Just happens to be in Florida.
Just happens to be in Florida.
Okay. However, we do have some, plenty of items already in the house. And I'd like to point out this really rare Mills, again, horse race Nickelodeon, that we have. There were, when we started doing this, there were only 6 of these horse race machines known to exist. And because of our auctions and promoting and everything, 2 more have shown up. So there's now 8 known, and one of them is going to be in our April auction.
That's right. It's a beautiful item, isn't it?
It is.
If you ever get a chance to Google it, just to look at a photo of it, it's really a neat piece.
Right, because it's transcends two different fields. Well, it's a coin-operated item. It costs a nickel to operate it, but it actually has a horse race taking place, so it's a gambling device. You see little horses going around a track, and at the same time, it's playing a Nickelodeon. It's playing a piano, so you get the song, the horse race, and everything. It's really quite a device when you think about the technology.
That's great.
Now,
I love that item. I can't wait to see it come up in April.
Talking about horse race machines, we just sold a horse race machine. You know, the Arlington racetrack, everybody's aware of, and you know, they auctioned off, you know, so many of the things there. Well, we were actually hired to auction off the horse race game, totally different. It was not coin operated, but it was the horse race game that came out of the Turf Club at the Arlington racetrack.
That's right. It was round. It looked like a hot tub for one, basically. The thing was huge.
Big machine.
And it was right in front of my office for a while, and it was what a great centerpiece.
Yeah. And tons of history.
Where did that go? Do you know? Is it still in country?
I don't think it's in the country. I think it's sold out of the country.
Wow.
Yeah. That may have been one of the items that was loaded up for Switzerland.
It might have been.
Yeah.
Might have been.
So, but, you know, jukeboxes are another thing that fit right into coin-operated. You know, coin-operated phonographs, you know, the first coin-operated phonograph actually started in the 1890s. It was penny-operated. It was a cylinder machine. And the purpose of a coin-operated phonograph was because most people at that period of time had never heard pre-recorded sound.
Right.
It was brand new, pre-recorded sound.
Thank you, Thomas Edison.
So they put a penny in a slot to hear pre-recorded sound, probably for the first time in their life. So it started as a curiosity, not as an entertainment device. But they became so popular that coin-operated phonographs before long had 6 cylinders in them. Now you could choose one of 6. And then over the years, you know, they became the mainstay in restaurants and places all over the country. And, of course, the jukebox is really made famous by the TV show Happy Days.
Right.
Everybody knows.
I did watch that, yes. It was in color.
Hitting the jukebox and getting it to work. That was always so. So people love jukeboxes in their man caves. And
you know, it has such nostalgia for me, too, because we would go to Pizza Hut every weekend with my dad, and we would always play the jukebox. So, Randy, I am looking for a jukebox. In the next segment, I'm going to ask you what kind of jukebox I should be looking for. So coming up next in our next segment, don't go anywhere. Join us after the break. We're going to continue talking about fantastic coin-operated machines. You're listening to the Donley Auctions Hour every Saturday at 1 o'clock. We're here for an hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, more of the Donley Auctions Hour on AM 560. The Answer.
We're back with the Donley Auctions Hour. Thanks for sticking with us during that break. You're here today with Susan and Randy Donley of Donley Auctions in Union, Illinois. We're just 60 miles west of Chicago, everyone. You should come out and visit us sometime. But today we're talking about coin-operated machines, and Randy was touching a little bit on
jukeboxes.
On jukeboxes. One of my favorite coin-op machines, because I love music. Everything about music.
Well, you know, I pointed out that they started out as a penny-operated cylinder machine. They became so popular that by the time the disc phonograph had come along, which was in later years, the jukeboxes were an entertainment device. But there was a period of time in the 1920s and even into the 30s, the early 30s, that jukeboxes were just kind of plain ugly machines. Mm-hmm. They were just wood and not attractive and everything. So those jukeboxes from that period of time, although they're old, aren't real valuable today. So they really only have a value of anywhere from $300 to, say, $500 or neat. But it wasn't until the late 30s when companies like Wurlitzer realized that in order for them to sell more songs, you know, so they needed more nickels put in the machines. In order to do that, they really needed the jukebox to look like something. And they started hiring really great designers who in the late 30s, early 40s were making jukeboxes just beautiful out of colored plastics and even the bubbler, which is it's called the Wurlitzer 1015. The 1015 is probably the classic of all jukeboxes with the bubbles going up the sides around the colored corners and everything. Just a fabulous machine, played 78 records. And that's still probably one of the most popular of all jukeboxes today.
They are beautiful, yes.
But then they realized that people even wanted to see the action more. Mm-hmm. So the big windows across the front, big curved glass front windows in the 50s and even into the early 60s, that Happy Days style where you could see the whole mechanism working. Very, very popular. But, Susan, you had asked what kind of jukebox you should be looking for.
I've been in the market for one for a long time. I just never knew enough about them. Yes, they're pretty, but I really want that nostalgia of when I was a child going to Pizza Hut with my dad, play, F6, which was the song Sundown. Remember that by Gordon Lightfoot?
Give us a couple bars, Susan.
Sundown. Anyway, that song still has a childhood. Yeah, I don't want to sing.
Okay.
Not the place for that. That's scare everybody away. But I've always been in the market for a jukebox. We've had many come through auctions, and I just not sure where to go on that. What do you recommend for someone who really, I don't even have room for one, honestly?
Here's what I recommend, seriously, is a remake. Not one of the originals, because the jukeboxes, the old ones, for one thing, normally the style that most people are looking for either play 78s or 45s. Mm-hmm. And those records not only are hard to get, but that's all they'll ever play. So if you buy some of these that look like the old ones, I mean, they're still manufacturing them now today. They look like an old jukebox, but they play CDs. And you can get any music.
That's true, yes.
You can play all your old hits on it, but also all the modern current music. So, it just has the variety that you need.
Yeah,
so
that's a good advice.
You don't necessarily need an antique. But I do want to point on one thing, that after the 60s, jukeboxes became ugly again. They became square boxes and just a very utilitarian coin-operated phonograph, in restaurants and bars and everything. So that period of time, again, after the 70s into the 80s and everything, when people have those jukeboxes today in their basements and they're calling us, again, that's the one that I have to give them the bad news on. They're very often not worth a lot of money.
Wow. But we do have a guy who can repair jukeboxes for us and pinball machines and equipment when we consign stuff for auction, right? So there's certain things that we can actually get repaired.
Well, obviously we can. The problem is that good repair people are so in demand that they're just backed up. And if one of our guests call, he can't get around to them,
right.
and that's so sad. So if you know of any good repair people out there, let us know, because we'll be happy to promote and help everybody out there, get new sources and everything. So if you know of somebody that is a good repair person for jukeboxes, we are always looking so that we can recommend them to our listeners.
I just didn't want anyone to think that they can't consign a piece to us that's not working. So what's your recommendation on that?
Oh, yeah.
If it doesn't work, what do we do next?
There's buyers that actually want machines not working,
right?
Because they'll buy them for less money and do their own repair work. Mm-hmm. So.
And for the parts and pieces, too.
Absolutely. So everything sells in any condition, whether it's beat up. And this is why I say, call us, but send us pictures so that we can assess it for you, because sometimes what looks like junk is junk.
Right.
But then sometimes what looks like junk is a treasure.
Right.
It's gold.
Again, let me run that information past you again. Call us at 815-923-7000. Email us at Donley Auctions with an S. It's DONLEY, DonleyAuctions@outlook.com. All that information is on our website at DonleyAuctions.com. Please get in touch with us beforehand. We'll give you some direction on what to do next. And as always, we'll make that collection fit in your wallet. But right now is the perfect time. We'll tell you a little bit more about the upcoming auctions and what else we're looking for and how to even bid at an auction. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Donley Auctions Hour here every Saturday at 1 o'clock on AM 560, The Answer.
The Donley Auctions Hour continues now on AM 560, The Answer.
We are back with the Donley Auctions Hour. Susan and Randy here with Donley Auctions in Union, Illinois. We're talking about coin-operated machines and some upcoming auctions. Randy, tell us more.
Well, I'm always trying to explain to people what exactly we're looking for. And, I just happened to think about a company, Exhibit Supply, that was also in Chicago here. They made card vendor machines where you used to put in a coin and get a card, maybe a movie star or what have you. But Exhibit Supply made such a great variety of games. And, talking about card vendors, I also think about fortune-telling.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh. Fortune tellers are so neat. They always have a grandma or a gypsy or something inside a glass box, and you'd put in a coin and get your fortune out.
Did I tell you that's going to be my Halloween costume this year? Don't anybody take that idea. That's what I'm going to be. So you better start working on it.
Okay. Well, once again, here we go. So fortune tellers, we're always looking for coin-operated games like that. But, I thought I should touch a little bit, too, on, we're talking about so many antique games that, are somewhat out of touch with a lot of people's lives because they didn't live that far back. And so one very popular item in collecting still are early video games like Pac-Man, things we remember like Golden Tee or Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, I remember that, yeah.
So it doesn't have to be always, from the 20s, 30s, and 40s
Rusty,
and everything.
dusty. Yeah, it can be newer stuff,
Absolutely,
more modern.
because they sell well at our auction. So keep that in mind. All vintage, all makes and models, and advertising for any of the above, anything that has to do with advertising or signs, mentioning any of these products.
Oh, signs for sure. We've had Wurlitzer signs and some great advertising. Those sell very well for everyone's man caves or she sheds, they call them now.
Big money.
Yeah, that's right. So we keep talking about the April auction. It's coming up the end of April, 27th, 28th, 29th. Now is the time to give us a call. If you have anything you need to sell or you need to downsize, you're moving, let us know. We'll give you some direction. Email us at donleyauctions@outlook.com.
And I got to tell you, Susan, I'm looking for that big warehouse.
I know. We would love a warehouse full of stuff. Somebody's got a hoard in the Chicago neighborhood somewhere.
Let us know.
We'll come out and check it out and give you an honest evaluation. Randy's integrity, the Donley Auctions are known for the integrity. We will be very honest and tell you what your next steps are for sure. So again, let's recap real quick. The April Spring Classic, the end of April, consign now on some of those items we talked about today. We have a vintage license plate auction coming up on March 12th. So with that in mind, we're also looking for some unrestored vehicles for our April auction as well. I love cars. I had a guy call me yesterday with a bunch of GTOs. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. Stay tuned for more. We have our big antique phonographs and radio auction coming up March 18th. That's also online already, too.
I'm glad you mentioned cars because some of the really big car auction houses, they don't want Model Ts and Model As anymore.
Right.
They're looking for the high-performance stuff. We're still selling that vintage well.
That's
so
right. And unrestored. People want the unrestored stuff. So stay tuned and keep an eye on Donley Auctions. Popcorn Collection, April 1st. May 20th is our next firearms and military auction. So as always, we love to push firearms, ammunition. We're always looking to consign those items. We carry our own FFL. And like I said, send us photos to donleyauctions@outlook.com. Give us a call at 815-923-7000. We will be happy to answer any of your questions. The other thing I want to mention, just come out to one of our auctions. We would love to see everybody coming out. So the next one really they can come visit is March 18th for the antique phonographs and radios. But for now, I'm Susan.
And I'm Randy Donnelly.
And we'll see you at the auction.
Thanks for listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer. Check out all the latest information on upcoming auctions and collectibles at DonnellyAuctions.com. And while you're there, you can contact someone about buying or selling your collectibles or estates. That's DonnellyAuctions.com.